I'm calling 911 right now. You're a menace to our community with that grill. That's what this HOA Karen yelled at me while I was just trying to grill peacefully at my lake cabin. She actually called the police because of my hamburgers, but here's the best part. Just 3 minutes after her silly 911 call, I discovered something that would turn the tables on her completely. I found a way to get her and her entire fake HOA off my property for good. What I learned that day did more than just protect my right to barbecue. It revealed years of her lies and set a whole neighborhood free from an authority that didn't even exist. The payback was perfect. Let me set the scene for you. It's a Saturday afternoon. I'm at my small cabin by Lake Morrison, a little place I bought 3 years ago to get away from the noisy city. The sun is shining on the water, there's a soft breeze that smells like pine trees, and I have some beautiful ribeye steaks that have been marinating all night. I light up my charcoal grill, and it has to be charcoal because I'm not a savage. I was thinking it was going to be the perfect afternoon, no emails, no deadlines, no traffic. Just me, my grill, and the quiet sounds of nature. My cabin isn't big, just 1 bedroom and a tiny kitchen. But it has a deck that looks out over the lake, and that's where I have my grilling station set up. I bought this place because it felt like my own little piece of heaven. The closest neighbor is about 50 yards away, hidden by trees, so I never thought I'd bother anyone. I'm about 20 minutes into grilling when I hear heavy footsteps stomping on the gravel. You just know trouble is coming. That's when I first met Priscilla Sterling. We'll call her Karen because, believe me, she earns the name in about 30 seconds. She's marching towards me holding a clipboard, looking like a general leading an army. She's dressed in what I can only call suburban battle gear. Khaki pants, a polo shirt with a strange logo, and a look on her face that says she's never heard the word no. Excuse me. She yells while she's still 20 feet away. Not hello or good afternoon, just a sharp excuse me that immediately makes you feel like you've done something wrong. I look up from my grill, holding my spatula, and I'm genuinely confused. Oh, hey there. It's a beautiful day, isn't it? She stops about 5 feet from my deck, puts her hands on her hips, and the tension is so thick you could cut it with my grilling fork. Are you the owner of this property? She demands. Yeah, that's me. I'm Ethan. I try to give her a friendly wave, but she's not having it. I'm Priscilla Sterling, president of the Lakeview Estates Homeowners Association. She says, like she's royalty. And I need to tell you that what you're doing right now is a direct violation of our community standards. I blink. I'm sorry, I'm just grilling burgers. You're creating excessive smoke without a proper permit, she says, reading from her clipboard like it's the law. Also, you're making noise pollution with that ... thing and damaging the air quality in our beautiful lakefront community. I look at my little Weber grill, then back at her. Ma'am, with all due respect, this is my property. I'm just cooking lunch, and that's when Karen shows her true colors. Her face turns bright red. She grips her clipboard like it's a weapon and says the line that was about to make her famous online. Oh, so you think you're special. You think you're too good to follow the rules like everyone else. I'm just standing there with burger juice dripping from my spatula, completely shocked. What rules? This is my land. It's our community, our standards. You can't just do whatever you want. This woman is yelling at me about hamburgers. Hamburgers. I think to myself, maybe I can calm this down. Reasonable people can talk things out. Right, wrong. Look, Mrs. Sterling, I understand you're worried about the community, but this is my private property. Maybe we can find a solution. I could move the grill ... No. She cuts me off. You don't get to negotiate with community safety. Community safety. From a burger, I try one more time. What if I just finish cooking this one meal and we can talk about it? She pulls out her phone, and this is where things get truly crazy. Fine, if you won't listen to reason, then the authorities will make you listen. She dials 911. I'm not kidding. This woman calls for help because she doesn't like the smell of my grilled meat. Yes, hello. I need to report a public safety violation. At 247 Lakeside Drive, there's a man here creating dangerous smoke, and he refuses to follow our community rules. She paces back and forth, getting more and more dramatic. He's using an unauthorized fire source in a residential area. Yes, fire. It's creating thick smoke and polluting the air. He's being uncooperative and is potentially dangerous because I'm grilling a burger. She hangs up and gives me a smug look as if she just solved world hunger. The police are on their way. Maybe they can explain what being a good neighbor means. I'm still holding my spatula, watching my perfectly good steak get overcooked, trying to figure out what just happened. You called the police on my lunch, I called the police on your violation of community standards, and then, I hear it in the distance, sirens, she actually did it. Police officers are driving to my house because this woman has never heard the phrase mind your own business. Mum, I say, trying to stay calm. When the police get here, what exactly are you going to tell them is the emergency? She stands up straight, holding her clipboard tight. With total confidence, she says, I'm going to tell them that you are conducting illegal barbecue operations, breaking homeowners association rules, and creating a public nuisance with your smoke terrorism, she actually said. Smoke terrorism. The sirens get closer, and I realize my peaceful Saturday is now the scene of the most ridiculous police call ever. I look at Karen, then at my grill, then at the beautiful lake where people are peacefully fishing, completely unaware of the great burger war of 2024 happening on my deck. That's when Officer Marcus pulls into my driveway. This whole thing has gone from zero to insane in about 15 minutes, all because I wanted to cook some meat on my own property. I'm standing there with my spatula, looking at this woman who truly believes she has the power to shut down my barbecue, and I can't help but wonder what kind of neighborhood I've moved into. Is this normal? Do people really call the police over the smell of food? Did I accidentally join some strange, controlling neighborhood where you need a permit to cook lunch? The officer gets out of his car, and I can see from his face that he's dealt with this kind of nonsense before, but I had no idea that what he was about to say would completely turn this whole situation upside down and expose Karen's little power trip for what it really was. What Officer Marcus said next changed everything. Do you think he sided with Karen or with me? So, Officer Marcus Thompson gets out of his patrol car, and I can tell right away this guy has seen it all. He looks to be in his mid-40s, built like someone who has broken up real fights for 20 years and has a look that says, I really hope this isn't as ridiculous as it sounded on the radio. He walks up to me, still holding my spatula like a confused chef, and Karen standing there like she expects a medal for her civic duty. Afternoon, folks. I got a call about a safety violation. He looks around, sees my little grill with a tiny bit of smoke, and I watch his eyebrows slowly climb up his forehead. Karen jumps in right away. Of course, officer. Thank goodness you're here. This man is operating an illegal fire source and creating dangerous air conditions in our community. Officer Marcus looks at my grill again, then at Karen, then at me. Sir, is that a Weber grill? Yes, officer. I'm making burgers. He nods slowly, like he's thinking about a very deep and complicated question. And ma'am, you called 911 because he's violating Homeowners Association regulations. Karen waves her clipboard dramatically. Unauthorized smoke, noise, pollution, and a complete disregard for community standards. Now, this is where things get good. Officer Marcus has been a cop in this area for 15 years. He knows every street, every property dispute, and every ongoing problem. Something about Karen's performance is setting off his cop senses. Ma'am, can I see some documentation for these Homeowners Association regulations? Karen starts flipping through her clipboard nervously. Well, I don't carry the full documentation with me, but I'm the president of the Lakeview Estates Homeowners Association and Lakeview Estates. Officer Marcus interrupts, and his voice sounds different. Now, what is the exact boundary of your Homeowners Association's area? And folks, this is the moment Karen's confident act starts to fall apart. The entire lakefront community, obviously. Officer Marcus pulls out his phone and starts scrolling. Because I'm looking at the county records here and I'm seeing something interesting. He's quiet for about 30 seconds and I can see Karen getting more and more nervous. She keeps looking back and forth between him and me as if she's trying to decide whether to double down or run for it. Finally, he looks up. Ma'am, I need to ask you something and I want you to think carefully before you answer. Karen straightens up, trying to act in charge again. Of course, officer. Are you absolutely certain that this property is part of your homeowner's association's jurisdiction? The way he asks this question isn't casual. It's the kind of question cops ask when they already know the answer and are giving you one last chance to tell the truth. Karen doesn't get it. Of course I'm certain. I'm the president. I know every property in our community. Officer Marcus nods slowly. I see. And how long have you been president? 3 years. I've been maintaining the standards and property values for this whole neighborhood. Maintaining standards, he repeats, like enforcing no grilling rules. Among other things, yes, we have very strict guidelines about outdoor activities that could affect other residents. I'm watching this whole thing unfold, and I'm starting to think Officer Marcus knows something Karen doesn't. There's a tension in the air, like watching someone walk right into a trap they can't see. Officer Marcus puts his phone away and looks right at Karen. Ma'am, I've been patrolling this area for 15 years. I know the property lines, the jurisdiction boundaries, and the legal authorities for every square foot of this county. Karen grips her clipboard tighter. Yes, and I need to inform you, he continues, that this lakefront area, especially the properties along this part of the shoreline, was never incorporated into any homeowners association jurisdiction. The silence that follows is so loud it's almost deafening. I can hear the water lapping on the shore, birds chirping in the trees, and what I'm pretty sure is the sound of Karen's entire world breaking apart. That's impossible, she stammers. Mom, when properties are added to an HOA, legal documents are filed with the county. Deeds are changed, boundaries are set, and the authority is officially recognized. Officer Marcus's voice is getting more official, more like a cop. This property and several others along the shoreline were never included in any of that paperwork. I'm trying not to smile, but I can feel the corners of my mouth twitching. So? What you're saying is ... What I'm saying, Officer Marcus goes on, is that this lady has no legal authority over your property at all. You could open a full barbecue restaurant right here, and she couldn't do a thing about it, except maybe ask you politely to keep the noise down. Karen's face goes through about 7 different emotions at once: confusion, anger, disbelief, and panic. I think I see the moment she realizes she's been acting like the neighborhood boss with absolutely no real power, but ... But we've been managing this community for years. Mom, what you've been doing is sharing your opinions and hoping people would listen. Which is fine, as long as everyone understands that's all they are, opinions. And then Officer Marcus delivers the line that became famous in our house: you can call yourself the Queen of England if you want to, Mom, but that doesn't make Buckingham Palace your backyard. I lose it. I laugh so hard I almost drop my spatula. Karen looks like she's been hit by a truck made of pure embarrassment. So, to be clear, Officer Marcus continues, this gentleman is cooking food on his own property, which is perfectly legal. You called emergency services because you don't like the smell, which is a waste of police time, but not illegal. What is a problem is you claiming to have authority over private property that you don't actually have. Karen's mouth opens and closes like a fish out of water. I'm not claiming ... I am the Homeowners Association president of ... Of what? Exactly? Officer Marcus asks. Because according to the county records, there is no registered homeowners association with authority over this address, and that's when it all clicks for me. This woman has been running around the neighborhood for 3 years, telling people what they can and can't do on their own property based on nothing but her own opinions. She's not an elected official. She's just a nosy person who convinced herself and a few of her neighbors that she had some kind of power. Officer Marcus continues, ma'am, I'm going to give you some free advice. Stop telling people what to do on their own property unless they ask for your opinion. If you keep harassing residents by pretending to have authority you don't have, you could be charged with harassment or impersonating a public official. Karen looks completely defeated. Her whole identity as the neighborhood authority has just been destroyed by facts and the law. But I can see something else in her eyes, too. A stubborn refusal to believe what she's being told. This isn't over. Not by a long shot. Officer Marcus just tips his hat to me, tells me to enjoy my barbecue, and drives away. He leaves me standing on my deck with Karen, who is still holding her clipboard as if it could somehow give her back her imaginary power. The silence between us lasts for what feels like forever. Finally, she speaks, her voice quiet but angry. This isn't over. Then she turns and walks away, and I have a feeling I've just made a very determined enemy over a hamburger. But at least now I know I'm completely within my rights to grill whatever I want, whenever I want, on my own property. But what did Karen do when she found out her fake empire was falling apart? Did she give up? Or did she double down on the crazy? You might think that being told by a police officer that you have no authority would make a normal person step back, but Karen is not a normal person. Karen has built her whole life around being the neighborhood boss, and she wasn't about to let a little thing like the law stop her. Officer, I don't know where you're getting your information, she insists, but I promise you, I am the elected president of this community's homeowners association. I have documents, I have meeting minutes, I have ... Mum. Officer Marcus interrupts, do you have the legal incorporation papers? The filed bylaws, the property deed changes, Karen blinks. Quickly. Well, those are kept by our secretary-treasurer, and who would that be? Margaret Hensley. She lives on Elm Street. Officer Marcus makes a note. I see. And Miss Hensley has all the legal documents proving your HOA's authority over this lakefront area. Yes, absolutely. I'm watching this, fascinated, because it's clear Karen has never actually seen any official papers. She just assumed she had power, and no one ever questioned her. Officer Marcus nods. Well, ma'am, I'll definitely check on that. In the meantime, you need to understand that until I can confirm your legal status, you have no power to tell this gentleman what to do on his own property. Asterisk, and that's when Karen completely loses it. This is ridiculous. I've been managing this community for years. I've organized meetings, sent out newsletters, and enforced the standards. You can't just come here and tell me I don't exist. I'm not saying you don't exist, ma'am. I'm saying you don't have legal authority. Karen turns to me, her eyes wide with anger. And you think you can just ignore community standards. You think you can do whatever you want without caring about your neighbors. I'm still holding my spatula, and my burgers are probably ruined by now. I'm just trying to understand the fact that this woman has been living in a fantasy world where she's some kind of queen. Ma'am, I'm just trying to cook lunch on my own property. I had no idea you thought you were in charge of ... Well, anything, really, thought. I'm in charge. I organize the 4th of July barbecue. I coordinate the Christmas light displays. I make sure everyone's yards meet community standards. Officer Marcus is taking notes, and I can see him trying not to smile. Ma'am, organizing parties doesn't give you legal power over private property. That just makes you a helpful neighbor. The look on Karen's face is priceless. It's like watching someone realize they've been playing a game with fake money their whole life. She starts shuffling through her clipboard with growing panic. I have documents. I have proof. Look. She starts waving papers around as if they'll magically become legal. Here are the meeting minutes from our last Homeowners Association meeting. Officer Marcus takes the paper and reads it. His eyebrows go up even higher. Ma'am, this is a printout of an email you sent to 5 people, asking them to a community standards discussion in your living room. It was an official meeting with 5 people in your living room. And according to this, only 2 people came. Karen grabs another paper. Here are the community guidelines. Officer Marcus looks at it. This seems to be a list of your personal preferences, typed up in Microsoft Word. No loud music after 9 p.m., no dogs off leash, no grilling on weekends, single quotes ... He looks up. Ma'am, these aren't legal rules. They're suggestions. They're community standards. According to who did the county approve these? Did the property owners vote on them? Are they officially recorded anywhere? Karen is getting more and more panicked. We don't need the government's approval for community standards. We are self-governing, and this, Officer Marcus says, putting on his firm but patient cop voice, is where you're wrong. Ma'am, you can't self-govern other people's private property. That's not how property law works. I decide to jump in because this is just a strange. So, wait, let me get this straight. You've been going around telling people what they can and can't do on their own property based on your personal opinions. Karen spins around to face me. Based on community standards, based on keeping property values up, based on being a good neighbor. But who gave you the authority to decide what makes a good neighbor? I'm the president of what? Officer Marcus and I ask at the same time. Karen throws her hands up in the air. Of this community, I was elected. Officer Marcus looks at his notes. Elected by who and when? By ... by the community members who care about maintaining standards. How many people voted? Karen hesitates. Well, it wasn't a formal election. It was more of a general agreement. Among how many people? The people who came to the meetings, which was. How many people? Sometimes 3, sometimes 5. Out of how many total property owners in the area you claim to govern? Karen's voice gets very small. I don't know the exact number. Officer Marcus closes his notebook. Ma'am, I think what happened here is that you organized some casual neighborhood talks. A few people went along with your suggestions to be nice, and you took that to mean you were granted some kind of official power. The silence that follows is thick enough to cut with a knife. Karen stands there, her clipboard hanging by her side, looking like someone just told her Santa Claus isn't real. But ... but I've worked so hard to maintain community standards. And that's very nice of you, Officer Marcus says gently. But unless property owners legally agreed to give you authority over their land, and unless that agreement is officially documented and filed with the county, you're just a neighbor with opinions. I almost feel bad for her at this point. Almost. Then I remember she called the cops on my hamburgers. So, what happens now? I ask. Officer Marcus looks at both of us. Now, ma'am, you're going to stop telling people what they can do on their own property unless they specifically ask for your opinion. And sir, you're going to finish cooking your lunch and try to have a nice day. Karen looks like she's about to argue, but Officer Marcus holds up a hand. Ma'am, I need to be very clear. If you continue to harass this gentleman or any other property owner by claiming authority you don't have, that could be considered criminal harassment. Do you understand? Karen nods weakly, but I can see the gears turning in her head. She's not done yet, not by a long shot. Officer Marcus gets back in his patrol car and drives away, leaving us standing in what feels like the aftermath of a small bomb. Karen stares at me for a long moment, her clipboard held tight against her. Just like a shield, I can see her mind racing as she tries to process what happened. Her whole world has been flipped upside down in 20 minutes. And I'm starting to realize that for someone like Karen, admitting she was wrong isn't just hard, it's impossible. So, did Karen finally give up and leave me alone? Tell me in the comments what you think a person like Karen would do next. You'd think a police officer explaining property law would be enough to make someone realize they were wrong. But Karen isn't someone who ever accepts being wrong, ever. After Officer Marcus drives away, I think maybe now I can finally eat my lunch in peace. I turn back to my grill to check on my burgers. They're salvageable land. When I start to flip them, I hear Karen clear her throat behind me. I turn around, and she's still standing there, holding her clipboard like a shield. But now there's a new, determined, and slightly crazy look in her eyes. This isn't over, she says. I'm sorry, what? I said, this isn't over. That police officer doesn't know what he's talking about. I've been managing this community for years, and I'm not going to let one confused cop and one selfish neighbor ruin everything I've built. I just blink at her. Ma'am, he literally looked up the legal records on his phone. Legal records can be wrong. Bureaucrats make mistakes. I know this community, and I know what's best for property values and neighborhood harmony. She turns and starts to walk away, then spins back around. You think you won today. You think you can just ignore our community standards and do whatever you want. We'll see about that. And with that, she storms off toward her house, leaving me standing there with my spatula, wondering if I just made the worst enemy of my life over a hamburger. Spoiler alert, I did. For the next week, my phone starts ringing off the hook. It's not Karen directly, she's too smart for that after the police warning. But suddenly, I'm getting calls from people I've never even heard of. Hi. This is Margaret from the Lakeview Community Standards Committee. We've gotten complaints about unauthorized fire usage at your property. Hello, this is Bob from Neighborhood Watch. We need to talk about some concerns over smoke emissions in your area. This is Patricia from the Lake Morrison Property Values Protection Group. We'd like to schedule a meeting about community compliance. I start to realize that Karen has been busy, very busy. She's calling in favors, getting every nosy person within a 5-mile radius involved, and making it seem like I'm some kind of public enemy. The calls all follow the same pattern. They're concerned neighbors who've heard about issues at my property and want to work together to find a solution. What that really means is Karen told them to harass me until I stopped grilling, but here's where Karen made a big mistake. She assumed I would just give in to make the phone calls stop. She didn't realize that being told I can't do something on my own property by someone with zero authority would make me want to do it even more. Now, I should tell you something about myself. I've always been a pretty easygoing guy. I don't like conflict, I pay my taxes, I follow traffic laws, and I always return my shopping cart. I'm basically like vanilla ice cream, pleasant, harmless, and easy to ignore. But there's something about being told I can't grill hamburgers on my own property that just woke up something stubborn in me, something that said, oh, you want to play games? Let's play games. So I started keeping a record of everything. Every phone call, every concerned neighbor who showed up at my door, every piece of mail that arrived with some version of community standards and the return address. The more I documented, the more I realized that Karen had created a whole network of people who thought they had some kind of power over private property. It was like her own little kingdom of nosy neighbors, and they all believed she was the Queen. Margaret Hensley, the secretary-treasurer Karen mentioned, turned out to be just a retired teacher who took notes at their little coffee meetings. Bob from Neighborhood Watch was just a guy with a police scanner who thought it made him a cop. And Patricia from the Property Values Protection Group was a real estate agent who handed out her business card at these fake meetings. But here's the funny part, none of them really knew each other. Karen was the one connecting everyone, telling each group that the others were official organizations that supported her authority. So I decided to conduct a little experiment. I started calling them back. Hi, Margaret, this is Ethan from Lakeside Drive. I got your message about the Community Standards Committee. I'd love to come to your next official meeting. Could you send me the bylaws and incorporation papers, bylaws? The legal documents that prove your committee has authority. I just want to make sure everything is official. There was a long pause. I single quotes LL. I'll have to get back to you on that. She never called back. I tried the same thing with Bob. Hey Bob, thanks for calling about the Neighborhood Watch. I'd like to know more about your official jurisdiction and what legal authority you have to investigate property use. Legal authority? Well, we're just concerned citizens, so you don't have any actual law enforcement power. Not exactly, but you're investigating me for ... What crime, exactly? Another call that ended quickly. By the time I worked my way through Karen's entire network, I had proven that her community organizations were just social clubs with big ideas. None of them had any legal power, official status, or real authority. That's when I understood I wasn't dealing with a real dispute. I was dealing with one woman who had convinced a bunch of bored neighbors that they were some kind of unofficial government. So I made a decision. Instead of just defending myself, I was going to go on the attack. I started with the most powerful weapon in any modern fight, social media. I made a simple post. Hey neighbors, quick question. Did anyone actually vote to give Priscilla Sterling authority over what we do on our own property? I'm getting calls from people who say she's an elected official, but I can't find any record of an election. Just curious. Within an hour, my phone started ringing again, but this time the calls were different. Ethan, this is Tom from Maple Street. I saw your post and I have to ask ... Priscilla told me I couldn't build a shed without HOA approval. But if there's no actual HOA, hi, this is Jennifer from Pine Avenue. Priscilla made me take down my bird feeders because she said they were attracting pests. Are you saying she can't actually do that? This is Dave from Oak Lane. That woman made me repaint my mailbox because it wasn't a community standard color. But if she's not really in charge, and that's when I realized that Karen's little kingdom was built on a foundation of people who were just trying to be polite and didn't want to cause trouble. The minute someone says who, the whole thing started to fall apart, but Karen wasn't going down without a fight. By Thursday, I was getting more calls, but this time they were angry calls from people who had followed Karen's rules for years and were just now realizing they'd been tricked. I spent $300 repainting my house because she said the color was wrong. One neighbor told me, I've been waiting 2 years to plant roses because she said I needed a landscaping permit. She made me take down my kid's basketball hoop because of noise ordinances. The more people I talked to, the more I understood the scale of Karen's lies. She'd been collecting fake fees for her fake committees. She'd been threatening people with fake legal trouble. She'd been using her made-up power to settle her own little arguments and make an entire neighborhood follow her personal rules. And now that the truth was out, people were angry, really angry. Not just at Karen, but at themselves for letting it happen. By Friday afternoon, 17 of my neighbors wanted to meet to discuss what to do about our homeowners association problem. We decided to meet at my place on Saturday, right during my usual grilling time. Because sometimes the best way to celebrate freedom is with a barbecue. What do you think happened when Karen realized her whole network was falling apart? Comment below and guess if she escalated the fight or finally gave up. Word travels fast in a small lakeside community. Within 48 hours of my social media post, I started getting visitors. Not the angry, clipboard-carrying kind that Karen sent, but real neighbors who wanted to talk. First came Tom from Maple Street, carrying the blueprints for the shed Karen told him he couldn't build. He's a retired contractor who had wanted to build a workshop for 2 years but was afraid of breaking HOA rules. She told me I needed architectural approval from the standards committee, he said, rolling out his plans on my deck table. I've been waiting for months for them to schedule a meeting. Tom, I said gently, there is no standards committee. There's just Karen and her opinions. The look on his face was like watching someone realize they've been afraid of their own. Shadow. Next came Jennifer with pictures of the beautiful, handcrafted bird feeders she had taken down because they attracted cardinals and blue jays. Karen told me they were creating unsanitary conditions and attracting pests, she said. I love watching the birds. It was the highlight of my morning, but I didn't want to cause problems with the Homeowners Association. Jennifer, there is no homeowners association. You can put up as many bird feeders as you want. Then Dave showed up with a can of paint the exact shade of blue he had wanted for his mailbox before Karen made him change it to a neutral color. She said it would affect community property values, Dave explained. She showed me a whole binder of approved colors and said I couldn't use anything else. Dave, that binder was probably something she made online. Paint your mailbox neon purple if you want to. It's your mailbox by sunset. 7 neighbors had stopped by. 7 people who had changed their behavior, spent their money, and limited the enjoyment of their own property because one woman convinced them she had power she never actually had. And every single one of them had the same reaction when they learned the truth, a mix of relief and anger. You mean I could have put up my fence 3 years ago without waiting for approval? I could have planted those roses without a landscaping plan. I could have painted my front door red like I wanted. I didn't have to take down my wind chimes. Yes, to all of it. But here's the thing about people who've been tricked. They don't like being tricked, and they really don't like the person who tricked them. The next Saturday, I was out grilling again. Not because I was hungry, but because it was now about a principle. I was making a statement. This is my property. This is my grill, and I'll cook whatever I want, whenever I want. I was about halfway through cooking some chicken when I saw her coming. But this time, Karen wasn't alone. She had 3 people with her, Margaret, Bob, and Patricia. And they were all carrying clipboards like they were about to conduct an official investigation. They marched up to my property line and stopped. Karen stood front and center with her clipboard crew on either side and cleared her throat like she was about to give a presidential speech. Ethan Miller, she announced in a very official voice, by the authority given to us by the Lakeview Estates Community Standards Council, we are serving you with this formal cease and desist order for your continued violation of community fire safety regulations. I looked at the paper she was waving. It had official-looking headers and a lot of fancy legal-sounding words. Someone had put a lot of work into making it look real. Karen, I said, flipping my chicken, we've been over this. You don't have any authority. We most certainly do, Margaret chimed in. We are a properly formed community organization with the full support of concerned residents. Okay, I said, putting down my tongs, I have some questions. I walked over to the property line, and that's when I noticed we were starting to get an audience. Tom was in his yard, pretending to check his mail. Jennifer was watering her plants, but clearly listening. Dave was washing his car with a lot of focus on the side facing us. First question, Margaret. Where are the incorporation papers? I asked. About a Margaret shuffled her papers nervously. Well, we're in the process of filing ... so you don't have them. It's a complicated government process. Bob, what is your official power as neighborhood watch? Bob puffed out his chest. We patrol the community and report suspicious activities. To who? To the authorities. What authorities? The police. And the Homeowners Association. What Homeowners Association? Bob. Bob looked at Karen, helpless. Patricia, you mentioned property values. Do you have any data that shows me grilling hamburgers has hurt local real estate prices? Patricia looked genuinely confused. Well, no, but it's common sense that ... that what? That people don't want to live near the smell of barbecue. Because I think most people actually like that smell, and that's when Tom decided he'd had enough. He walked over from his yard, holding his shed blueprints. Karen, he said, loud enough for the whole neighborhood to hear, I've been thinking about that shed approval I've been waiting for. Karen turned to him, relieved, thinking she had backup. Yes, Tom, the Standards Committee is still reviewing your request for compliance. What Standards Committee, Karen? The question hung in the air like a dare. The ... The properly formed one. Karen, I looked it up, Tom said. There is no registered homeowners association for this area. There's no Standards Committee. There's no community council. There's just you and your friends playing make-believe government. Jennifer joined us from her yard. And I put my bird feeders back up. All of them. Because you can't actually stop me. Dave walked over from his car washing. And I'm painting my mailbox blue tomorrow. The blue I wanted 2 years ago. More and more neighbors started coming out of their houses, people I'd never even met, but it turned out they had all been watching this situation unfold. An older woman I didn't recognize spoke up. Are you telling me I took down my garden gnomes for nothing? A man with a motorcycle called out, she made me park my bike in the garage because it was disruptive. Can I park it in my own driveway? Now, a young couple with kids added, we took down our kids' swing set because she said it was a liability for the community. Can we put it back up? Suddenly, Karen was surrounded by a dozen neighbors, all asking the same kinds of questions. You mean we don't have to listen to you? Karen looked around at the growing crowd, holding her fake cease and desist order. I could see the exact moment she realized her little kingdom had fallen. You ... you can't all just ignore community. Standards, she sputtered, and that's when Dave delivered the final blow that ended Karen's reign forever. Karen, you're not the community. You're just a neighbor, and not a very good one. The crowd started to break up, with neighbors heading back to their yards with a new sense of freedom and purpose. Tom rolled up his blueprints with a grin, talking about finally starting on his workshop on Monday. Jennifer was already planning where to hang more bird feeders. Dave was figuring out how much blue paint he'd need, not just for his mailbox, but maybe for his whole fence. Karen stood there with her 3 remaining supporters, all of them looking lost and confused without their imaginary power to lean on. They didn't know what to do. Margaret quietly folded her fake meeting minutes. Bob took off his self-made neighborhood watch badge and put it in his pocket. Patricia closed her binder of made-up property value rules. The revolution was over, and it happened with nothing more than the simple truth: you can't control people who never agreed to be controlled. Karen looked at me one last time, her face a mix of defeat and pure anger. I could see her mind working, trying to find some way to get her power back, some new angle she hadn't tried yet. But there was nothing left. Her authority was always a fantasy, and now everyone knew it. She turned and walked away, followed by her sad-looking clipboard crew, leaving me standing in my yard with my grill, my spatula, and the most satisfying feeling of victory I've ever had. Not because I beat Karen, but because I helped a whole neighborhood realize they were free to paint their mailboxes whatever color they wanted, free to put up bird feeders and garden gnomes and swing sets, free to park their motorcycles in their own driveways, and yes, free to grill hamburgers on their own property without asking anyone's permission. What happened next completely shocked everyone, including me. Can you guess? Comment with your wildest guess for how this neighborhood showdown ended. 3 weeks later, I'm hosting what we now call the first annual Barbecue Freedom Festival. It started as just my usual Saturday grilling, but then Tom showed up with his own grill and some bratwurst. Then Jennifer brought a side dish to share with her newly reinstalled bird feeders singing in the background. Dave arrived with his bright blue mailbox shining in the sun and a cooler full of drinks. Before long, there were a dozen neighbors in my backyard, everyone cooking something different. Tom's shed is half built, and he's using it to store everyone's grilling supplies. The kids are playing on the swing set that's back up someone's. Wind chimes are making a gentle soundtrack for the whole party. And the best part, everyone is doing exactly what they want on their own property. And miraculously, the world hasn't ended. Property values haven't dropped, the lake hasn't been polluted, and no one has been hurt by bird feeders or traumatized by colorful mailboxes. Karen's house is visible through the trees, and sometimes I see her peeking out her window at our party, but she doesn't come over. Apparently, when you spend years bossing people around and then get exposed for having no real authority, people stop inviting you to things. Margaret stopped returning phone calls after people started asking for those incorporation papers. Bob traded his police scanner for a fishing rod and discovered he actually enjoys being a regular neighbor. And Patricia's real estate business is doing great now that she's focused on selling houses instead of enforcing fake rules. As for me, I learned an important lesson about standing up for yourself. Not in a loud or angry way, but in a simple, fact-based way that says, actually, no. You can't tell me what to do on my own property. The funny thing is, our little neighborhood is more of a community now than it ever was under Karen's fake power. When people are free to enjoy their own property the way they want, they're happier. And happy neighbors are good neighbors. Tom finished his shed and now offers to lend his tools to anyone who needs them. Jennifer's bird feeders attract so many beautiful birds that people come by just to watch them. Dave's blue mailbox has inspired 3 other people to paint theirs bright colors, and now our street looks like a rainbow instead of a boring, beige experiment. The kids have organized neighborhood games around the swing sets and trampolines that are back in yards. The motorcycle guy gives rides to kids whose parents are okay with it. The garden gnomes have returned, and honestly, they make people smile. We have a real neighborhood watch now, not Bob's imaginary power trip, but neighbors who actually know each other and look out for each other's property when they're out of town. And yes, I still grill every Saturday. Sometimes it's just me. And sometimes it's a crowd, but it's always my choice, on my property, on my schedule. Karen eventually moved away. I heard she found a neighborhood with a real homeowners association where she could use her organizational energy for actual community service. Hopefully, she learned the difference between being helpful and being controlling, but every time I light up my grill, I think about that first day. I think about how one woman tried to turn her personal opinions into community law and how easily she convinced people to go along with it just because she acted like she had authority. It makes me wonder how many other Karens are out there, in neighborhoods and communities everywhere, convincing people to follow rules that don't even exist and enforcing standards that no one ever voted for. So, here's my advice. The next time someone tells you that you can't do something on your own property, ask them 3 simple questions. What's your legal authority? Where are the official documents? And who elected you? If they can't answer those questions with real paperwork and proof, then congratulations. You've just met someone who has mixed up their opinions with the law. And in that case, you have my full permission to smile politely, thank them for their concern, and then do whatever you want anyway. Because this is America, folks, you should be able to grill a hamburger on your own property without it becoming a federal case. Though, if you do end up in a federal case over hamburgers, I'd love to hear that story, so that's how I got rid of a fake homeowners association from my land. With nothing but the truth, a little research, and the simple idea that people should mind their own business. If this story inspired you to stand up to your own neighborhood Karen, hit that like button and let me know in the comments. And if you think I was wrong and Karen was just trying to keep the community nice, well, you might be a Karen yourself. And remember, life's too short to let someone else tell you how to enjoy your own backyard. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got some burgers to flip. But wait, there's one more twist to this story that I haven't told you yet. Subscribe and hit that notification bell because next week I'm revealing what Karen did when she realized this. Video went viral, and trust me, you won't believe it. What did we learn today? Probably nothing, but it was fun, wasn't it? Show some love with a like and don't forget to subscribe.